Welcome back to Loose Talk and to the third and final night of the Republican convention. It's been a lively convention, starting with the threat of Hurricane Isaac, then Tropical Storm Isaac, which cut the week short by one day. There have been dramatic moments, not least Condoleezza Rice's surprisingly effective speech to the convention on Wednesday night. Of course, Paul Ryan's hard-hitting and controversial introduction to the nation later that evening. And then the classic soft-soaked familial moments, most notably Anne Romney's address on Tuesday night, in which she spoke from her heart about all our hearts, and indeed about love. So by the standards of these quadrennial affairs, it's been pretty good value for money. But the ultimate test of whether this has been a success will only become apparent later on tonight when Mitt Romney gives his speech. Only after that, after what of course is the biggest speech of his life so far, will it become clear whether he's succeeded in humanizing his robotic image with the American public, and whether he's achieved that all-important test of getting a bounce in the polls that all nominees have come to expect as their due from these grand conventions. As you can see from behind me, delegates are streaming in already to this convention. Now, I might be making myself a hostage to fortune, but I'd bet that some of the other speakers on tonight's roster, notably Clint Eastwood, but also perhaps Newt Gingrich and Jeb Bush, even Marco Rubio, could outshine the former governor of Massachusetts. For those of us who've sat through every minute proceedings over the last 72 hours, it's a very different vision than it is for most Americans, who are only going to get at most an hour or a few minutes worth of exposure to events this week.
I'll start it, you finish it. Go ahead.
My promise is to help you and your family.
So with the balloons still popping behind me, you can hear the end of the Republican convention. And as I suspected, Clint Eastwood did, in the event, overshadow Mitt Romney, but not quite in the way that I supposed. He spent most of his bizarre speech arguing with an empty chair, proving, I guess, that actors usually perform best when they have a script to perform to. Nevertheless, he did end with the famous Clint Eastwood line, "Go ahead, make my day." As for Mitt Romney's speech, well, it was a speech by Mitt Romney. It was a pretty flat delivery. There were one or two rhetorical high points. Disappointingly little new information on what a Romney administration would mean in practice. And so I would be pretty surprised if he went out of this convention with a major bounce in the polls. But as I said earlier, sitting here in the convention hall is pretty much the worst place to judge the impact of a presidential convention. And so as Barack Obama goes into his convention in Charlotte next week, my guess is this race will remain too close to call. So see you there and then on Loose Talk.